solo spoken word.
All right, everybody. That was tea. Everybody was tea. It was amazing. That was so cool. All right, your next performer has signed up by the name of Trump Rabies. So I really want everyone to just give a round of applause for Trump Rabies. Thank you.
So, 2 Saturdays ago, Pennsylvania, the Tree of Life Temple Synagogue, 11 dead. The gunman was shot by responding officers and was taken to the nearby hospital. The president of the hospital was a prominent congregation member who was not injured. The head Yarners worried that his parents were victims 15 minutes before this man was wheeled screaming, "Kill all the Jews," into his ER stretched to a stretcher with multiple gunshot wounds. He was also the son of a rabbi. He did his job with compassion, with empathy, with utmost professionalism and care, and probably saved the man's life. He did his job with love. Because this is 2018, people began to attack him and praise him also. He was in the New York Times and the Washington Post as a character in stories that day. He was on CNN and then Mr. Cooper at Fox News that day. And this was the Facebook post he wrote that night. It is simply the best Facebook post I've ever had the honor to read. It is probably the most important Facebook post I have ever seen or ever had the honor to read. This is the Facebook post of the emergency room Yarners who saved the life of Robert Bowers, the Tree of Life Temple Synagogue shooter. He wrote this the night of the shooting. I am the Jewish nurse. Yes, that Jewish nurse. The same one that people are talking about in the Pittsburgh shooting that left 11 dead. The trauma nurse in the ER that cared for Robert Bowers, who yelled, "Death to all the Jews," as he was wheeled into the hospital. The Jewish nurse who ran into a room to save Robert Bowers' life. To be honest, I'm nervous about sharing this. I just know I feel alone right now, and the irony of the world talking about me doesn't seem fair without the chance for me to speak for myself. When I was a kid, being labeled the Jewish anything undoubtedly had derogatory connotations attached to it. That's why it feels so awkward to me that people suddenly look at it as an endearing term. As an adult, deflecting my religion by saying, "I'm not that religious," makes it easier for people to accept I'm Jewish, especially when I tell them my father's a rabbi. "I'm not that religious" is like saying, "Don't worry, I'm not that Jewish, therefore I'm not so different than you." And like clockwork, people don't look at me as awkwardly as they did a few seconds beforehand. I experienced anti-Semitism a lot as a kid. It's hard for me to say if it was always a product of genuine hatred or kids with their own issues finding a reason to single me out from others. Sure, there were a few Jewish kids at my school, but no one else who had a father who was a rabbi. I found drawings on desks of my family being marched into gas chambers, swastikas drawn on my locker, and notes shoved inside of it saying, "Die Jew, love Hitler." It was a different time back then, where bullying was not monitored like it is now. I was weak too. Rather than tell anyone, I hid behind fear. Telling on people who did this would only lead to consequences far worse. Regardless, the fact that this shooting took place doesn't shock me. To be honest, it's only a matter of time before the next one happens. History refutes hope that things will change. My heart yearns for change. But today's climate doesn't foster nurturing, tolerance, or civility. Even before this shooting took place, there's no real evidence supporting otherwise. The FBI and the Southern Poverty Law Center note that Jews only account for 2% of the U.S. population. Yet, 60%, 60, of all religious hate crimes are committed against Jews in America. I don't know why people hate us so much, but the underbelly of anti-Semitism seems to be thriving. So now here I am, the Jewish nurse that cared for Robert Bowers. I've watched them talk about me on CNN, Fox News, Anderson Cooper, PBS, and all the local news stations. I've read articles mentioning me in the New York Times and the Washington Post. The fact that I did my job, a job which requires compassion and empathy over everything, is newsworthy to people because I'm Jewish. Even more so because my dad's a rabbi. To be honest, I didn't see evil when I looked into Robert Bowers' eyes. I saw something else. I can't go into the details of our interactions because of HIPAA. I can tell you that as his nurse, or anyone's nurse, my care is given through kindness, my actions are measured with empathy, and regardless of the person you may have been, when you're not in my care, each breath you take is more beautiful than the last when you're lying on my stretcher. This was the same Robert Bowers that just committed mass homicide. The Robert Bowers who instilled panic in my heart, worrying my parents were two of his 11 victims, less than 20 minutes before he arrived. I'm sure he had no idea I was Jewish. Why thank a Jewish nurse when 15 minutes beforehand you shoot me in the head with no remorse? I didn't say a word to him about my religion. I chose not to say anything to him the entire time. I wanted him to feel compassion. I chose to show him empathy. I felt that the best way to honor his victims was for a Jew to prove him wrong. Besides, if he finds out I'm Jewish, does it really matter? The question is, what does it mean to you? Love. That's why I did it. Love as an action is more powerful than words, and love in the face of evil gives others hope. Love demonstrates humanity. Love reaffirms why we're all here. The meaning of life is to give meaning to life, and love is the ultimate force that connects all living beings. I could care less what Robert Bowers thinks, but you, the person hearing this, love is the only message I wish to instill to you. If my actions today mean anything, love means everything. Thank you.
Awesome. Let's keep the show moving. Next up we have Some Fool with a Guitar, everybody. Give a round of applause. Thank you.